Lies, Threats, and Intimidation versus Standing Up for the Truth. Article number 165. How Tanya Higgins attempted to silence a community. As a local farmer and columnist, getting people to share their stories isn't difficult. Most people are happy to share their experiences and opinions when asked. What is particularly challenging, however, is encouraging people to come forward and share their stories publicly. The fear of backlash, intimidation, or threats often looms too large, especially when those in positions of power are involved. In a recent interview with Ian Ware from the Cooma Monaro Progress Association, I asked whether he was concerned about sharing his opinion. His response was both telling and deeply concerning.
Aren't you concerned about telling these hard truths?
Yes, I am. But this is all true, and I'm sorry if I've offended anybody in what I've saying. This is all without prejudice.
During the interview, Ian detailed how the gang of councillors, Hannah, Hopkins, Davis, Summers, Rooney, and Higgins, have consistently worked to obstruct progress in the council chamber. He stated,
"We've got a real problem. The gang of whatever bad, right? Those guys haven't got a clue. They've done nothing. They've been nothing. So what's going on? I mean, and then the guys that come in and have run a business or have certainly a fair amount of knowledge are ignored, objected, just because some political point."
In a free and democratic society, holding staff and councillors to account is critical to maintaining the freedoms and rights we should all enjoy as citizens. Yet what we are witnessing in the snowy Monaro region is a disturbing trend, where those who are outside of the gang's clique, when they speak out, are often met with intimidation rather than engagement. The gang of councillors have relentlessly targeted Councillor Thaler, seeking to discredit and marginalize him at every opportunity, while refusing to hold themselves to the same standard. This hypocrisy has not gone unnoticed by the informed members of our community. Most recently, there is significant reason to believe that Councillor Tanya Higgins made certain threats against individuals in the Mucklego notice board. Evidence suggests that her husband, Carl Higgins, also went on to publicly threaten legal action, as shown in the attached screenshot. This is highly inappropriate. When a community issue is raised, the first public action should not be a threat, but rather an acknowledgement of the problem, or at the very least, an expression of concern for those affected. To make matters worse, these threats were made public, which further compounds the severity of the situation. When elected representatives or their associates resort to intimidation, it not only damages public trust, but also undermines the core principles of democratic governance. Let us not forget the victims of the Cooma water tank explosion, a family of 5 who, after 5 long years, are still waiting to be properly compensated. As a result of witnessing many of their neighbors and friends endure hardships with the council, they too continue to struggle with submitting their own claims. At first glance, this might seem exaggerated. However, after hearing first-hand accounts from victims along the same street, it becomes evident that a pervasive culture of intimidation has woven itself into the very fabric of how the council treats the most vulnerable residents. This culture of intimidation and lies must come to an end. Is it any wonder that the recent community survey showed that only 3%, that's right, just 3%, of respondents reported being very satisfied with the council's performance, while a staggering 56% of respondents indicated they were either very dissatisfied or dissatisfied. This is simply an untenable situation where the community at large is being disenfranchised by those who have a duty to serve them. Such widespread dissatisfaction reflects a loss of faith in the council's willingness and ability to address the concerns and needs of the Monaro community. It would seem the council has become a creature that believes it exists primarily to serve itself and its own interests, rather than the community and its interests and welfare. One of the most shocking recent developments involves Matthew Badrock, a resident who has bravely spoken out despite facing intimidation from the council. During a recent council meeting, Matt detailed how he felt unfairly treated by the council, stating that instead of being seen as a victim, he was compelled under Section 203 to speak with counsel as if he were the perpetrator. He described feeling vulnerable and unsupported, despite presenting clear evidence of contamination and environmental damage affecting his property and family. Furthermore, around the 15-minute mark of the meeting, Mayor Hanna was seen actively suppressing the truth from coming out. Councillor Higgins had allegedly falsely accused Councillor Thaler of delaying the investigation. A blatant lie. Instead of correcting this falsehood, Mayor Hanna appeared more concerned with covering for his ally rather than allowing the community to hear the truth. This willingness to protect misinformation while undermining a fellow councillor's reputation is deeply disturbing and highlights a serious governance and leadership issue. Tanya Higgins has the whole apparatus of the local council to assist her in her role. But what protections do individual ratepayers have? At present, none. It is my hope that a future motion will be raised to protect those who speak truth to power, to protect the citizenry against bullying by those in privileged positions. I encourage anyone who has been directly contacted by either Tanya or Carl Higgins, especially if they were threatened or intimidated, to share that information either publicly or privately. This kind of behavior must not take root in the Monaro if we desire a community where freedom of discourse can take place without fear of retaliation. Once again, I want to applaud Matthew for standing up for the truth and for his community, despite the numerous threats made against him. Protections for the citizenry of the Monaro must be strengthened, particularly when it becomes clear that a specific councillor has made threats against her own constituents. Shame on Tanya Higgins and Mayor Hanna. Such actions will likely not be looked upon favorably by the Office of Local Government, OLG, or the Ombudsman. We encourage everyone to contact these bodies to ensure that Councillor Higgins, Mayor Hanna, and any of the gang who support their actions are held accountable. We urge you, fellow citizens of the Monaro, to take a stand. Reach out directly to the gang and let them know that this behavior is unacceptable. Remind them that every person in the snowy Monaro deserves respect and fair treatment, not just those who hold influence in the chamber. It is time to send a powerful message to the Labour councillors. Enough with the politicking and intimidation. Stand up for your neighbours, your community, and your right to be heard. Your voice matters. Use it. The community deserves better. The community deserves to speak freely, without fear, and to be heard. Let's make sure our voices are not silenced by those who fear accountability. I sincerely encourage everyone in the region to listen to the entire public forum presentation made by Matthew Badrock last month in Bombala. It is available both on the council website and on the Monaro's own YouTube channel to ensure that a record always remains, and judge for yourself whether Mayor Hanna acted appropriately in running cover for his Labour ally Higgins. Also, note how none of the gang had any questions for what is possibly the biggest environmental issue in the region. Their silence is deafening. Draw your own conclusions about why any attempts by the independents to improve transparency or accountability are routinely rejected by the gang. I think Ian Ware from the Cooma Monaro Progress Association said it best and deserves repeating. Those guys haven't got a clue. They've done nothing. They've been nothing. Thank you for your continued support in bringing the truth to light. Please like, subscribe, and share this channel and Substack with everyone you know in the region. Only by bringing the truth to light can we truly hope to hold those who are guilty of intimidating and threatening our fellow neighbors and friends to account. An ancient proverb says, "Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy." May it be so on the snowy Monaro. May truth and freedom thrive on the snowy Monaro.
On all four,
Yeah, absolutely.
or against.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm talking to motion 1119.
Thank you.
Ready? Okay, beautiful. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, councillors, executive, people in the chamber and those online. When I first joined the Navy, one of my first commanding officers said it was important to start off a speech with a joke as it helps everyone relax. Did you know that there is a harmful silicate mineral that when it is inhaled in dust form can kill you? Well, it's asbestos not to talk about it. Shocking, shocking, I know, but this is what my family and community have been dealing with for 3 years. And yet this situation has remained unresolved. I have observed one delaying tactic after the next by council staff. Multiple promises of actions, multiple promises of DA shutdowns, litigation. I've participated in interviews. I could go on and on and on. I just want to point you to the DA documents. First, the DA itself was proof of no notification. The property has critically endangered and protective native grasslands. The property is zoned R5, which means running a commercial operation or a waste management facility is not allowed. The environmental effect statement is only a few sentences long. You cannot build a multi-level dwelling on top of holes that consists of about 150,000 cubic metres. It is impossible. This is clearly a waste management facility, as was advertised on social media by the owner of the property. There is a huge unapproved platform that has been built around the lower pit. It's an extreme eyesore and it's causing major erosion and sedimentation issues onto my property and has done for years, and it's gone unanswered. Building rubble, and I'm going to go on to the investigation of the unapproved waste dumping now. Building rubble is in plain sight all over the property. The DA has approved venom only, which basically means soil only. Certainly not as asbestos, which washed on my land in December last year, and it still remains in place. I provided thousands of photos and videos to council demonstrating this. Most of the waste that is dumped has actually not been put in the holes. I provided many photos and videos of waste being dumped all along behind the pine trees on the property next door. This was then pulverised into the ground by the D6R dozer. As discussed earlier, there's a social media video, $450 a load for beneficial reuse, which is not approved on the DA. Beneficial reuse contains contaminated soil in it. I have asbestos and other building rubble on my paddock as a result of rainfall washing it onto my land. Further, I also have a lot of silt and filth all over my paddocks from next door, and I want this cleaned up and remediated, please. I believe my concerns have been ignored and delayed by council staff. Asbestos was confirmed during December last year, and no tangible steps to move towards prosecution have been made. I find that strange. During October 2022, I observed water being pumped out of the Lower Iron Ore pit onto my property. I took a sample and had it professionally tested at a lab in Canberra. The results were extremely concerning. There were notable markers with levels causing environmental disturbance in aluminium, chromium, copper, iron, lead, manganese, and zinc. Aluminium levels had approximately 150 times the safe level for human consumption, and that's coming from a property that's groundwater sensitive. Council came out, took sampling from the bore water on my land and other direct neighbours, but would not share the results. Council said groundwater would be monitored and was working with the EPA to prosecute the owner. I see no evidence of this nearly 3 years on. Former notifications, have they occurred? Prior to residents of my notifications to the New South Wales EPA, the owner was not on its system and did not know about the water, did not know about the asbestos. It was on the system from other councils though. Same with SafeWork New South Wales. Until I contacted them last week, weren't on their system. Strange. Monaro High School projects. There were allegations that asbestos had been taken from the Monaro High School, a council-managed project, and dumped next door by the owner who was contracted for asbestos removal. Friable asbestos has been found at Monaro High School previously. Upon receiving allegations of asbestos dumping, council ordered 6,000 cubic metres of testing for friable and non-friable asbestos next door. The piles of fill were left uncovered and the dust brushing was inadequate and unsafe. Late last year, asbestos was washed on my property and I could see plenty of it. Upon discovering the asbestos, council committed to a joint walkthrough off next door with the EPA. This has not happened. And in fact, all that has occurred since then is the owner has been allowed to engage a consultant, be used a digger without a water cut, allowed his workers to be operating without PPE, and issue an asbestos clearance certificate. It appears that council has allowed the owner to remove the evidence. This is really bad. This is bad for my family. This is bad for my community. And what response did I get after all this? I got a letter in the mail telling me that I had to attend an interview, and if I didn't show up, I get a $2 million fine. I'm the victim of this, and I can prove it. I've got all these documents. This is so stressful. And I'll just leave you with this thought. I'm going to table this email with all the concerns that I have sent, and I've raised this so many times, but this hasn't been answered, right? And I keep getting told there's no evidence, right? Well, 3 years later, this took me 3 seconds to gather from my paddock. Can you please do something? Please.
Thank you. Right, Matthew. Any questions?
Yeah,
Councillors?
thank you. I've a few questions. Thanks, Matthew. That was
Councillor
great.
Williamson.
So if we can just go to the water matter,
Yeah.
you know, I remember it well because I spoke to you at the time. I took the water sampling results that you provided and gave them to the then General Manager of Council.
Yeah.
I was subsequently advised by the then Chief Operating Officer that Council had engaged the EPA and the EPA were taking responsibility for that water contamination issue. I think you just said that the EPA weren't aware of it. Is that right?
That is correct. That's what they told me during several conversations that I've had with them. They also said they'd be happy to take this matter on, but they won't unless council asks them to.
Okay. So were you told at any point by council that the EPA were managing it?
I was told that they were working with the EPA on the matter. That's all I was told. I haven't been told very many details quite. You know, that's been a common theme, which, you know, logically that is fair enough because there's an investigation going on and I'm considered a witness. However, it's been 3 years. It doesn't take that long to build a case or go to court or what have you.
But you mentioned other councils. I just want to clarify that. Does that mean that because other councils wouldn't be managing this matter?
Yeah.
But are you suggesting that and I think you said the EPA told you that other councils were aware? Is that to do with the operator? What's that about?
I believe so. That was my understanding, but you would have to ask them about that. I can't speak for them.
Okay, and just one final question. What were you asked at the interview you attended?
Well, just on that, about an hour before the interview commenced, what was meant to commence the first time, I received an email saying that I was not allowed a support person. And I was only allowed a lawyer that was admitted to the New South Wales Bar. Now, I'm lucky that I have someone close to me that is an extremely well qualified lawyer, and they were able to represent me in that interview and will continue to when needed.
That was an hour before.
An hour before. I do not know what would have happened if I walked into that room by myself. And I feel extremely vulnerable standing right here, right now. But during the interview, I was asked questions about the evidence that I'd handed over to council in relation to a rainfall event in early December, and also some subsequent photos and videos of what appeared to be asbestos on the ground on my paddock and the neighbouring property.
Did you get asked if you had put that material on the property?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Rose.
Right, just
The bedrock. This is beyond shocking. What you've told us, and like this needs a royal commission or something. Anyway, we'll leave that to see.
I think enough public money's been wasted on this. Thank you.
But look, am I right in thinking that over the 3 years you've had, well, you've got two councillors that live in Nicolego. What have they done to support you in this?
To be fair to Councillor Rooney over here, he was not in council when all this first kicked off. I've had a conversation with him 2 or 3 days ago. Outside of that, I have not engaged him in any way, shape or form in regards to this. I believe he's aware of it, has been aware of it. I saw him at the community meeting 3 years ago in October when everyone was going crazy about it. Even though he wasn't in council at the time, you were there, I saw you. And as far as Councillor Higgins goes, goes, I've CC'd her in a lot of correspondence, particularly earlier on in the matter. She was sympathetic about the whole thing, empathetic. She would provide me with updates whenever I had questions, but I'm just not sure that, you know, in her position as deputy mayor, that perhaps she may have been able to push harder. That's my personal opinion. Yeah, so that's what I would say as diplomatically as possible, noting the forum that we're in.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the question just is there been a single council officer responsible for as the contact point all the way along, and you had a variety of different people?
I've had a variety of different ones. Councillor Williamson has been very helpful the whole way through. He's advocated strongly. Councillor Davis, when you were mayor, I believe that you were involved in correspondence around the groundwater, and I believe that you potentially that you advocated for water testing and things like that, but I don't know. Councillor Andrew Thaler has been extremely helpful the last few months, and all other councillors I haven't really spoken to about this.
And the council employees that have been involved, who are they?
I don't want to mention their names. I'm happy to do that off record. I don't believe in naming and shaming. However, as you can tell from what has happened here, and believe me when I say this, I can prove every single thing that I've said today. Every single thing. And the fact that this is dragging on for 3 years it beggars belief. And my community may very well now have contaminated groundwater and friable and non-friable asbestos scattered all over the joint.
And 50 trucks for that. Thank you. Thank you, public.
And just one other question, because I think you said something like, I got a letter from the council to appear.
Yes.
That if you didn't appear, you get a $2 million.
That's what the legal letter said.
This
yes.
is extraordinary. So you became the target rather than the person that was helped.
Well, that's the way I felt. Yes, councillor.
No,
yes.
this is an outrage. Thank you, Mr. Badger.
Thank you. Any councillor Thaler?
Thank you for coming, and I wish we could have done more. So it actually saddened me to think that we have to get to this point. So I appreciate your bravery. Come and share your story. On the 12th, I visited your farm at your request.
Yes, you did, councillor.
And how long did it take us to find asbestos in your paddock?
Not very long. I don't know exactly, but it was not hard. No, councillor. Not even a minute, I would.
And recently, what were you told about as the reason for the delay to the investigation?
I haven't been given a reason for the delay to the investigation. But, you know, I keep getting told things like these kind of matters take time. It's an environmental investigation. They're complicated. They take time. But I guess a very simple rebuttal to that would be that when you have this on the ground in front of you, it doesn't take long to figure out what's going on. And the first thing you should do with the powers that you have, which are the powers that were used on me to give me a compelled interview, is that you should look at the ground. It's there. It's still there. And it's all been seeping into my property. I have a 3-year-old son and a 5-month-old daughter. I've never done a single thing in my life, and it's just not right. And I don't understand why that I've had to live through this the last 3 years.
Did Councillor Higgins tell your wife that I was responsible for the delays to the investigation?
I wouldn't answer that question.
I will move a motion against you.
We're in public forum.
Okay, well, I have the proof of that comment.
Excuse another.
I'm allowed to ask a question. If we're not in the rigidity of the meeting, Mayor, I'm allowed to ask a question. Mr. Badrock can answer it. I have a copy of the message from Tanya Higgins. Did Tanya Higgins suggest to you or your wife altogether that I was responsible for the delay in the investigation?
I want to be clear that I do not see this issue as a political issue. I'll answer your question, Councillor Thaler. I do not see this as a political issue. I see this as a significant health issue that has not been addressed. And I don't want those kind of things to distract from what I'm doing here. But yes, she did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any further questions, councillors? Thank you very much, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Well done.
Final speaker is